of Ash and Flo. This is Unbillable Hours, a podcast about professional services marketing. Stick around to listen to our insights, tips, and best practices to improve your firm's marketing and even your career.
Ash, welcome to this last episode of the Unbillable Hours podcast.
What do you mean the last episode?
See what I did there? It's the last episode before we do our live show with one of our favorite guests. They're all our favorite guests, but he was special. Luke Smyers from the Visible Authority, and of course, like all of you, if you want to join us,
Yes.
because we will do a live session next Friday at 1 p.m. Central European time, German time, whatever this is, early afternoon. Is that 12 UK or 2 UK?
No, it's 12. We are 1 hour.
Oh, it's 12.
It's 12.
So at noon UK time, right? So good. Lunch break for people.
So all of you guys in the UK who are on your lunch break, come on, join us. That's fine.
Yeah, so we'll be discussing, we'll be presenting, it's not quite a framework yet, but like our joint perspective on what are the current trends, the current challenges in business development and marketing for professional services firms, and how could you go about tackling them. And the interesting thing, I think, for listeners will be that Ash and I will discuss these points from the perspective of people who work in the marketing function of the firm. Now, Luke, who obviously founded a consulting firm and sold it, and then run a practice for quite a while within
And
Deloitte.
still runs another practice.
Yeah, and still runs a practice. He will discuss this from the practice leads from the business perspective. So lots of goodness should be in there. And you can, of course, join us, ask questions, hang out with us over lunch. And we'll get to know you somewhat personally, which we'd love to do that. So I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, that was the promotional teaser, right? Let's get into today's episode. I think where we wanted to discuss the marketing funnel, right, Ash, and how to optimize it.
I think we've been hearing a lot about the death of market qualified leads, and like you need to focus more on your sales side. None of that's entirely true, but the whole problem is the disconnect between the funnel. When you look at the funnel, essentially you got the marketing funnel on one end and you have the sales funnel on the other end. And these two things almost operate independently in a lot of firms. So let's just take it like a day-to-day kind of example. Through your marketing programs, whether it's like on the website or whatever, places where you do your data capture, you get a bunch of like leads. None of these leads are really, intent of purchase of whatever, service or product that you offer. They're just intent of interest. And sometimes they can be rivals, whatever. So the issue there is you then filter these leads down and then you put them into your entire funnel and you go through this large issue of like hitting everyone, which doesn't really help sales, because what are you trying to aim for? Like getting like 10,000 leads and having 1% conversion, or maybe 0.5%, something like that? Or are you looking for very specific targeted groups? You're looking for the latter. In order to do that, you need to have the connection to sales up front. By that I mean, it's like, so sales, through events, through their conversations, through everything, they pick up leads. They get leads of genuine interest, or at least future interest. There is some engagement there. These leads come in. It's a lot better than it used to be about 7 years ago, where you basically will have a first name and an email and nothing else, or maybe a phone number and a first name, and you wouldn't know anything. Now, our sales friends are also really better in terms of data, just like our marketing friends are getting better at data. And they will have much more intent signal qualified leads. It's sales qualified leads, but it's much more focused on the intent signal. Now, take these two sets and converge them. That gives you the key focus of where you should be focusing on your marketing. Like, Flo, you and I both know that marketing primarily is focused on like acquisition, what do you say, growth, and retention, right? Those are the three kinds of campaigns that you run. Why do you want to run all of this thing on like, so why do you want to run like 10,000 leads all on acquisition phase? Because guess what? If you are a decent enough practice, you should have already acquired these other channels rather than just pushing them all in front through the website. So what we do here is we focus on intent acquisition rather than like general acquisition. And then we focus on nurturing and building these, putting them through the marketing and sales cycles by optimizing your funnel.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that narrow channel of like 100 people, say 100, from 10,000 to 100, of which you have like 50% conversion or 75%, which means that your marketing efforts and your sales efforts are much more focused. You understand what effect your offering has, and you can also look at like what future offerings you can build on this that makes sense for you, and also which ones you should move away from, because this is how you fortify the strength of your brand positioning and your offering positioning within the market. I've been ranting a bit, but go ahead, Flo.
So I think what what you're saying is, and I think with that I agree, is that we have to, if we talk about fixing the funnel, what we mean is we have to increase the relevancy and the effectiveness of the entire thing. So
Yeah.
the name of the game is bring in high intent leads as opposed to just any lead, right?
Yeah.
So focus on high buying intent, and then also, and I'm not sure you said that as much or if that's me projecting, but also make sure that once they're here, once they're coming in, that they don't get lost, right? Don't have a leaky funnel way between the stages something goes wrong and you lose them. And so let's click into that, and let's talk about the various funnel stages and we can improve them. But I will say before we do, just one thing. I am aware of the discussion that pops up once and every one in a while, like, is the funnel even real, right? Aren't customer journeys totally nonlinear and chaotic? My point of view on that is I don't care. It's an academic discussion to me. I think if you think about marketing, selling, buying, and all these things as building relationships that just happen to end in a transaction, it is helpful for me in my practice to think about these relationships in stages. And so for me, the funnel model still pretty much works to a certain extent. That's what I
Actually,
would say.
I want to like touch on that. I want
Like for all the complicated drawings Gartner has about the fractured customer journey, all that stuff, still someone goes from I don't know you at all to I know you a little to I'm interested in a little bit, having a bit more of an extension to yes, actually you have something to offer, which I find really valuable. That's still alive and kicking, I would say.
Yeah, so this is a good segue. What I want to say is that we're so focused on the customer journey and the customer touch points that we're forgetting that what will drive your supply and sales is your demand journey, not your customer journey. Where is your demand understood? Where is your demand focused? Because the customer journey and demand journey can be the same, but in a service-oriented firm, it's not necessarily the same, because your touch points for your customer journey are like your events, your website, and all those things. That's not indicative of demand. Demand is indicated by where do they take action. So you can drive people through multiple customer journeys, but your demand journey is clearly going to be like, this is a point of interaction where we actually give them like a focus on what their demand is. This is the point where we actually build awareness of their demand and create that. And this is a part of the journey where we sell them on basis of that demand. The customer journey could be like, yeah, I went through the website and went this and went there. That's not the focus. The focus is demand journey. And I think the sooner that larger like research firms focus on that, the better it is for professional services and service-oriented firms in general.
Yeah. And it's let's park the because my suggestion would be to go from the bottom of the funnel upwards in terms of optimizing it. And I'm not the conversion optimization expert, but I think we can maybe share or discuss 1 or 2 points per funnel stage. Like, what are the quick wins to optimize at the stages? And I usually like to start at the bottom of the funnel because I find that often optimizing there, these are quick fixes which you can usually do quite easily and without even if you aren't in a position where you can like overhaul the entire practices, marketing strategy, whatever, right? But you can always sort of try to boost the conversion rates at the bottom of the funnel. And I was going to ask what ideas you have, but I start with mine. I think and we've discussed this on the show before, my biggest pet peeve is just the offer and how it's presented, whatever the journey, whatever the funnel is. But right at the point where you try to convert me to something, I find many consulting firms still have a lot of potential in the way what they're offering. And let's say the conversion you're trying to drive is for an actual sort of small type of consulting-ish offer, a strategy call or a small workshop or whatever. Like so many websites you go to, so many offering decks you see just have a name, a face of someone, name, title, and then there's a contact me or email me button or inquire about this blah blah offer. Like that's not how you should structure this. And there's a lot of, I'm not going to go into details, but there's just look up some ideas about offer development. And it's not offering as in what is the consulting service, but literal offer. Like how do I create a good promotion and a good offer where people actually have an easy time say yes to. Consulting firms do not enough of that, and that to me is one of the easiest fixes. Just be much more specific about what's on offer and be very clear what's my path to purchase, right? Don't just say book a strategy call. Have a paragraph telling me what that contains, right?
Yeah.
What's in it, and then maybe break out in a couple of bullets how this works, right? Schedule today, you get a thing tomorrow, then we'll assign you an expert and he'll send you, you'll get an email with 5 questions at a time. You get the idea, right? Just make it a bit more crisp and a bit more optimized so people can say yes to more easily. That is one of the, I don't know if you have a bottom of the funnel thing, but offers are too often broken, I think.
I have something that I'd like to call switchboarding. Essentially, what it means is, so you have like a client. Let's take your favorite example of automotive. You have an automotive client who is already like purchasing something from you. Now they have somehow come into your lead gen because they're like looking at some information from you. What a lot of firms marketing does is then they put these people in the same lead thing and they just stuff them with the same kinds of information, like tell them more new things about it. Not really. If you already have someone who's invested in you, nurture the lead. So what you should do there is take this intent signal from marketing, push it into sales and put that into the sales cycle, because then as they're already having conversations, they can have conversations that give them information about these kinds of services that help them purchase it. Their marketing's function is to support sales by providing them the material to have the conversations, rather than putting them through the entire marketing.
Oh, I like that, because what you're doing there is solving for a problem all consulting firms have, which is the cross-selling, right?
Yeah.
Like the client has already hired you for X and now you'd like to sell them Y, and it's always very, very hard. But the way what you're describing here is suddenly I get an opening or I get a signal that someone might be ready to talk about why.
Yeah.
And yeah, I fully agree. If you can build processes or just be disciplined about giving that signal to the practice and make sure it's being followed up with, that can be powerful. Agree.
Yes, instead of putting them through your, instead of inviting them to an event, maybe that works, but instead of putting them through your website and email, all those kinds of things, don't do that, because what happens then is they are, over-indexed on your brand and your offering, that they might look in another place to do the other thing, which then affects sales. You have to be really careful, because you, as well as all the others, are competing for their mind space. And to do that, you should do that in the place where they're actually having the conversation, not in the place where you're trying to open a new conversation. Don't do that. Just think about it like in a logical sense. Go ahead.
True, and I think the that's also a good segue to what I have for the middle of the funnel. I don't know, because there I just have one, and again it's very practical, and don't hate me for it. I don't have that much strategic stuff, but a big area of improvement I see in so many firms is just follow up. Sorry, I'm gonna say it. It's just follow up. It's like once you have people in the systems or in a cadence or whatever. What you said there reminded me of, like, people so often get fed into the wrong cascade, and then they get automated emails or nurturing sequences, which in my experience don't do that much anyways. What is better instead is just genuinely follow up. Have someone from the business follow up with people when there is an opportunity. And I'll make one example. If you give a webinar and you have people, you invite people, and then a few of them agree to come, and then you have a certain no-show rate and you do the thing. 8 of 10 cases, what I see consulting firms do is everybody who attended gets the slide deck. That's it. Which is already lame. Maybe there should be a better value add to the follow-up. But you missed a couple of opportunities, and that's my point, is you could also have followed up with the people who agreed to come but didn't show. Okay, to be fair, many firms also do that. But then you could also have followed up with the people who did register, right? That's one thing. So being complete in your follow-up, I think, is a huge opportunity. And then the other one is a bit more broad, I think. Being more consistent is also helpful. And you've heard this elsewhere and before, but so many people, if there's an opportunity middle of the funnel where you might pull them into the end, right, and this get closer to some kind of business transaction, sometimes prospects will say no and opt out of it. And very often that's when firms abandon any effort to ever talk to these people again, that's just dumb, right? Might have been just the timing. So keep engaged and keep following up, or try to offer something else. Just have good discipline around.
Well, actually,
respectful. I should be saying respectful follow-up. So many people,
yeah.
when I say follow-up, think it's about spamming. That's not what I mean. It's just don't disengage from someone too early just because this time it wasn't right.
So I have a good example here, and it's a stupid example, but still maybe relevant. So I purchased, this is just some food service where I purchased some pasta from, all right? I didn't purchase directly from them. I purchased through something, but they got my address. So first of all, they wanted me to purchase from them directly. They reached out saying, here's 50% off, and here's we'll throw in like a bottle of wine. Then a week later, they said, hey, you didn't really use this. Third week, they left it alone. Fourth week, then they responded saying, we know you bought our stuff. We know you liked our stuff, but we also realize that you don't engage, you don't really want these kinds of emails, and you haven't done anything with it. So remember that our offer still stands, and we're not going to bother with you anymore. We're not going to bother you with this kind of information anymore. But what we will do is that if you are ever happy to, get back, all of these things are there. And the first two things come from general marketing kind of emails. The last one's also a marketing email, but it's addressed by the MD and founder of the firm. And it's like they start off with this whole thing being a personal note, which kind of, even if it is a fully marketing written email, which you and I can attest to.
This is probably still an automated sequence, but yeah, that's right. It's the style that matters in those things. It's quite a great deal. Yeah. But I mean, you're contrasting a company who's clearly having that sorted out with the field of professional services, where, like I said, very often, I've seen this 100 times probably.
Yeah.
Follow-up is essentially non-existent, and it's understandable because consultants are seller doers, right? They have to sell stuff, they have to do the work, so they're always busy doing the work if business is good. So no one has time to even remember the follow-up, which then that's a job where marketing can step in and not pester people, but just help, right? Friendly reminders, giving people ideas for good follow-up whatsoever. But I think that's the middle of the funnel thing. So the top of the funnel is probably a show in and by itself because so much stuff going on. I think, and we've said this before, we should come back to the point where this is about building demand and preference by educating people. So non-transactional but informative marketing. And you said this earlier on, it should be focused about building the demand, finding where the demand is, growing the demand, all these things. And the funnel optimization I would recommend there is, and this is again just a fraction of a tiny piece, is to really get good in the discipline of, and I don't always get this right, but thinking about stuff from the perspective of client pains and client issues, and talk about how to solve those versus, I mean, top of the funnel. What is it so often? Oh, we have this and that. Essentially what we did at the top of the show, right? We have a live podcast. So you should be joining. It's a good example of driving awareness by just talking about my own stuff.
Segue, but I just want to add the fact that,
See, I wove the live show again.
You wove the live show, but I also you also did something which I'd like to say some of the gamer community might realize when you keep talking about get good. Okay.
Get good at it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You got to grind that thing, get better at it. And I think that to this day, like, and now let's put a word on it. Just general client insight and messaging remains either a weak point or an opportunity, depending on how you want to frame it, for so many consulting firms for various reasons. And a lot of that has to do with the focus they have on the business model and all that stuff. Like, there's real business strategy reasons for why it's sometimes so bad, sorry to be blunt about it. But that said, you can improve stuff even if you don't touch the strategy things, just by rewording things here and there. And that will be my practical quick fix for the top of the funnel. I don't know.
And as we say, all of this is to make sure that you optimize demand to fulfill supply.
Yeah.
And so it is essentially bringing marketing. Like, once again, we are quite familiar with the marketing stuff, and we can really talk about that. And we've built like functions, which we'll touch upon. The key role of you as marketers is to support the function, the sales, the practice, to build the practice. It is not about stuffing the market with messages, not stuffing the buyers with like lots of information. It's about optimizing that to build the right kind of demand, to make sure that there's always a supply. There's always, you supply this to the right buyers, and you have to like focus on this, because if you're a big brand, everyone's going to buy everything from you because they know your name. But if you're not a big brand, if you're not like a Disney of professional services,
Yeah.
you need to like make yourself known that you are the creator of this specific type of offering or service. And this is where you need to do it right, because we are all familiar with like smaller firms pretty much just to keep the lights running, taking all kinds of work. But at some point you have to optimize your offering.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not building a practice, you're just trying to put butts on seats.
Yeah, that's you end up in the body leasing business, as some call it, right? Which is not a good position to be in. Anyways, I gotta run. I got some more work to do this Friday. Change of pace there. So let's wrap it. I've taken notes, so I'll repeat it. Friends of firm marketing. Here's what we said today. To optimize the funnel, right? Ash gave us the intro set. The main game should be high intent leads. So make it all about bringing in more of the right people.
Yep.
Right in more often, and some ways to go there, like practical tips to tweak. Look at the offerings you make, as in the actual offers, like the first initial transactions I could take with the firm. How clearly are those described and how compelling are they? Probably lots of room for optimization there. Switchboarding, I think that was a very nice, I like the word for it, like this idea that if you have leads come in that already have an existing relationship, those get routed differently and directly to the people who can essentially help convert that interest, right? Don't let them get stuck in your typical marketing cadence or whatever, but hand them right to the business. And sorry if I add this, Ash, but make sure the business follows up, because these are busy people, right? Sometimes that doesn't happen. We've all been there. And then moving upwards, middle of the funnel, we talked about follow up, right? Improving the discipline around that in every capacity, I think. And like you said, Ash, maybe also doing sort of what is that? A style review? Just making sure follow-ups feel genuine, authentic, helpful, and sort of valuing the client and not just any automated email. Yeah. And then top of the funnel, that's an entire episode. That's an entire season in and by itself. But essentially, educate clients to build specific demand, like we said before, and the long lever you can pull there probably is the messaging. Like, how do you talk about the things you offer? Is it all me, we do this, we do that messaging? Or do you start from specific client pain points and take people in from there? Very few consulting firm sites seem to be doing that. Let's end on an example. I just saw Sangram Vaj. I don't exactly know how we pronounce his last name. The founder of Terminus, he just started a new consulting firm. I saw that on LinkedIn. And I already written to him. I know him a little bit from past endeavors. I think their website, and I'm going to put it in the show notes, is a perfect example for how you start with pain points and drive towards a solution versus talking about your services and your practices and all that stuff. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes. So anyways, that's it for this week, I think. Have a nice Friday eventually, Ash.
Yep.
Do you have anything to add? Sorry, that was me.
No, I think
15 minutes.
No, I think
you got to check out Sangram's page though. It's really, I think it's great.
Yep.
I put the link in the chat for you. It's such a virtual meeting thing to say. Okay.
All right.
And then, finally, hopefully see many of you on the live show again. I think it'll be interesting because we'll look at the dual perspective. What does the business do? What does marketing do? And how does the future configuration of that play out, which I think really people should take note of, because I expect that to change, and I expect that to impact primarily the marketing function and the way we do our jobs there very soon, or maybe it already has, but we haven't realized it yet. Anyways, that's it. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thanks for listening to Unbillable Hours. If you want more, tune in next week. You know where to find us.